Here we are in the Sources tab. At this point in the Writing Helper process, we'll have understood the question we're being asked, and we'll have thought long and hard about how we're going to answer that question, and previous videos have worked through that. We left off with an outline structure for this article or piece of writing about Edgar Allan Poe. So what we're going to do here is open some documents, and Writing Helper lets you open a variety of different document types, and they could be inaccessible, like images, as well as PDFs, websites, Word documents, and so on. And we'll capture some highlights. So to begin with, I'll open a book. And to do that, you hit From File and find the document you want, which may be this one here. And giving Writing Helper a moment to open the PDF, here we have this accessible document. Now, one of the strengths of Writing Helper at this point is that you have highlighters up here. As well as unsorted, you have highlighters that match the colour and the label of the structure that you made. So what we can do now, using these 5, so the 4 structure elements, but also unsorted, we can capture information. Unsorted can be used for when you find a quote or a piece of evidence or a statement that you want to use, but you don't know where in your structure yet to put it. What I'm going to do now is quickly go through this document and capture some information. We've now captured 3 highlights from this document, each of them in the unsorted section. On the right hand side here, you can change these to move them to your introduction or to your background. And when you do make a change here, the highlight in the document will change to match the colour of the new section. So let me change this one to the blue background. The objective at this point is to move this information now into our piece of writing. If we jump ahead to look at snippets, so far all we have is the structure that we're already familiar with. If we go back to sources, we can see these 3 highlights. We can either move them to snippets one at a time, or we can simply click this button at the bottom to move them all to snippets. If we look now in snippets, we'll see those 3 highlights have moved into our piece of writing. And there's one in our introduction and the other 2 in our background. We're going to come back to these later, but back to sources. Let's close this document and open some more. Here's a website about Edgar Allan Poe. Take the URL. In Writing Helper, you can click From Web. You simply need to paste the URL into that search field and press Enter. And here you can see that website has been converted into a PDF for us that we can again capture highlights from. So far we've brought in 2 pieces of evidence, we've captured information from them both, and we've moved that information, those highlights, into our snippets collection, where they've slotted into the structure we've already made. But where did we get the evidence from? At this point we don't need to worry about the style of those references, things like Harvard or Chicago or APA, and there are many more. They don't really matter yet. They are important for the formatting or the finessing part of the work, but when you're putting your content together, you don't need to worry about the citation or the reference style, but you do need to be able to cite your evidence. So if we open the source and click this button here, Citation Incomplete, you get this dialog, and we call this the Reference Manager, and it allows you to define the citation. You can also access this from the main window in Sources. Here, where the sources are tiled together, you can access by clicking the 3 dots in the corner of any one of your sources and clicking Citation Data, and here's the dialog. If we use this drop down and say Book, the search field appears up here. Let's click Search, and then let's press Enter. And if you scroll through, you can find the edition that you are using and preview that. You've got the publisher name. You may have the published location, you may not. Let's say this was London. If you save that citation, you can see now this source has been cited. Now I want to show you the OCR. So we may have an image or a screenshot or a photograph that we've taken of some text, and we might want to convert that into text that we can use. So I'm going to open From File an image. I've clicked From File, and here is the image. Click Open. You can see here the OCR is running, and that document has been converted. So we should be able to select elements of this. Let's take a few lines. And I'm going to take that and move it to my snippets as well. I'd now like to show you the keyword search feature. Here we have text from a book. We're going to search this book for the word father to see if there is reference in this book to Edgar Allan Poe being the father of science fiction. We can do that by clicking keywords. Enter the word or phrase we want to search for in here, which is in this case father. Press Enter. Here we can see on page 472 there may be a reference that we could be interested in, so we can click on this tile to jump to that page. I'm going to capture that for the introduction. If we go back to highlights, move that to snippets. This came from a book called Future Perfect, an American science fiction of the 19th century. I just so happen to have that book, and you can see what we're doing here is we're researching, finding information which leads us to more research, capturing the evidence to support our arguments, and we're slowly building up our arguments that we want to put forward in our writing. And as we do that, we're finding more research and iterating back and forth. So to recap the Sources tab, you can open different documents. We've opened images that have been OCR'd. We've opened websites, PDFs. You can also open Word documents. We've cited some of these sources, and we've captured information from some of them, and then moved that information through into our snippets, slotting that information into our structure. We've also used the keywords feature to search larger documents for phrases or words that may be relevant to us to help us find the evidence more efficiently. You can move back and forth through structure, sources and snippets, gathering evidence, changing your structure and gathering more evidence, and iterating on that cycle until you're happy with the content that you're putting together.